Wingardium
Flame of Udun! Hey there, Nomads of Lore. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Sean.
And we are Mead and Mischief, your home away from no home. So today we're going to be talking about high fantasy versus low fantasy and the differences between those things. As Sean talked about in our high fiction,
hard versus soft,
hard versus soft science fiction video. This is something that scholars discuss, and
absolutely.
So we're just going on, just trying to be as simple as possible, trying to get across what these meanings are, so that whenever we talk about these terms, our audience understands what we're trying to
Absolutely.
say, and we get the point across.
We mentioned Hello Future Me last time. I'll shout that out again.
Yes.
He does awesome content that are full deep dive video essays on these topics, and his content is wonderful on this and other things. So we'll put a link to his channel up here.
So we talked briefly in one of our videos a long time ago about what high fantasy is.
Yes,
what high fantasy is the epitome, I think, of high fantasy, or we both think of high fantasy, is definitely Lord of the Rings. And so that's something that is in a world similar to ours, maybe, but not our world.
Yeah.
Or not. And it's very clear that it's not our world. It doesn't have the same history that our world has. It has different history, different future. It's completely made up and completely separate from our world.
It's internally consistent.
It's internally consistent.
Its rules will fit its world, but they're different.
But it's different and separate from us.
Yes.
So some good examples of high fantasy are Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely.
Game of Thrones. Wheel of Time. Oz, the TV show.
The movie and the book series. Those are some great examples. Hobbit, Avatar. We started talking about our channel a little bit. At Last Airbender.
Not the blue, but
the blue one
would be it would be low fantasy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. We didn't want to talk about it anyway, so we don't really care.
That's right. We also mentioned and actually Blue Alien Avatar is a good segue, that if you take sci-fi fantasy, there are some things that are sci-fi but that have strong fantasy elements, like Star Wars in particular. Star Wars would be a high fantasy if you're calling it fantasy. So it's a good example.
Because it doesn't have Earth in it. If it had Earth in it.
Well, and and it doesn't talk, it does say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it like Lord of the Rings, when you read, or Hobbit, when you read the beginning, it kind of alludes to this being our world, but doesn't talk about our world at all, and it's separate.
And the name of the places and the way
and Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan said this is our world, but in a different age. But it's such a shift into a different secondary space, even if we're talking about a different turn of the wheel or whatever, that it's still so. Star Wars, in the same vein, it's so separate in a galaxy far, far away. That if we were lumping it in with fantasy, it would be high fantasy as well.
So on the flip side, what's low fantasy?
So high, low, soft, fast,
low,
up,
soft,
down,
hard.
left, right.
Yeah, okay. Low fantasy.
What are we talking about? Low fantasy. Low fantasy is a story that is set in the primary world, is the academic phraseology. It is set in the real world, either in a historical context or in modern times, with an overlay of a magical element. A really, really commonly cited low fantasy example is Harry Potter.
Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's
Harry Potter. Harry Potter, because it's set in it's absolutely set in England with the Prime Minister and all this stuff, with real history, real world history, with this secondary culture of of magic over
Basically,
here.
magic added in.
Yes,
so
added
that's
in.
what low fantasy is.
Exactly.
It's our something to do with our world or our history, possibility
Mm-hmm.
with some magic or something that's not quite realistic added into it. So,
Yeah.
what are some other examples?
So
of low?
some other examples. Another example that's sort of modern is Pan's Labyrinth, directed by Guillermo del Toro. I really enjoy it. We try to disclaimer when we talk about things that have heavy, weird, or questionable content that you might. It's very gruesome. It's rated R, and it's definitely that rating is deserved, and it's got some scary parts too. So if you're concerned about those things, look them up. Look up reviews you trust on that. But it's definitely low fantasy. It's set in Spain and has this fantasy world added in. See, another example would be one of my favorite fantasy authors is Neil Gaiman. His book Neverwhere. It's set at the beginning in London, and then it goes into this shadow London. And so it's got this magic part added on to the real world. And so it's a good example.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
Awesome. So that is high versus low fantasy.
absolutely.
We hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Yeah.
Like it if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. Comment down below some examples that you can think of, or whether
Things
you
you
like. Yeah, if you like high fantasy more or low fantasy more because of whatever reason. A lot of people that are history buffs like low fantasy a lot more than high fantasy because they like it the fact that it's grounded.
Yeah. And
So
they can put a pin in it. Where
exactly. So subscribe down below if you haven't subscribed. Ring the bell, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Bye-bye.
Bye.